Alright team, welcome back as always to another video. So I thought we'd do a follow-on from the video the other day about the art of good leadership and what does it look like. I thought I'd do a video but on what not to do. I suppose the art of bad leadership, however you want to put it. The kind of 5 things that I would recommend you avoid like the plague as an entrepreneur, as a leader, as an executive, if you're trying to motivate your people and bring them with you on the journey. Thought I'd do the equivalent of the positives but the negatives, because actually I always try and focus on the positives, as you probably gathered by now, but actually there's a lot of people that do unfortunately exhibit some unfavourable behaviours, and actually you might not even know you're doing it. You might not be a bad person, but I think it's important that you recognise them. So here we go. Number 1, never treat staff like mushrooms. Kept in the dark and fed on shit. The best results become from highly engaged, highly motivated workforces. And what that typically means is they know what's going on. They don't have to know everything from the top level all the way down to actually the people at the coalface. That's not necessarily what this means. But at every level you should be given absolutely as much information as humanly possible, because just because you're being paid doesn't mean that you're void of an opinion or an emotion on a subject matter, because actually in the best case scenario of full-time work you might work 36, 37 hours a week. Quite a lot of us work 60, 70, 80 hour weeks. It's a huge portion of your life, a huge portion. And it can have a huge effect on your happiness, your mental and physical health. So never do your staff the disservice of keeping them in the dark and keeping information back from them. Transparency and openness, I cannot advocate enough in this situation. Of course there's chains of command, and we all know what is right and wrong and what is or isn't appropriate in terms of the flow of information and how much can be shared, but push right up to the limit of what can and can't be shared, and trust your people. Assume if they work for the company they've got the best interests at heart until they prove to you that they don't. Therefore trust them. Number 2 is never assume people understand what you mean. Check they actually do. See, whether that's you've stood up delivering a briefing, whether you've sent an email to a collection of people, a client, whatever it might be, when you next talk to them, when you next engage, just make sure it was fully understood. Never just assume everybody knows or everybody is on your wavelength. It's something that I've noticed in my career. Sometimes I might go too quick for others, and actually because of the relationships I've built with them, they feel confident enough to say to me, Andy, you've gone too fast here, we're not with you. But unless you build that relationship with them, you wouldn't know. So just make sure you take a little stop, a little sense check of what you're doing, what you've written or what you've said, and make sure that people have come with you on the journey. Number 3, actually care about your people. You're going to spend, as I said earlier in the video, somewhere between 40 and 80 hours a week with them. It'd be nice to do it with people that you love and you care. And if you've looked at the recruitment video, the succession planning video, it's all about building and harnessing a teamwork and a culture of people that will run through brick walls for one another and will be there in the big moments, but also through the tough moments, because that's what makes business and life much easier. So what I mean by that, without trying to preach too heavily, is if you're going to be a manager, you have to actually care. When you walk in the morning, saying hi and asking someone if they're okay while you're making a cup of tea does not constitute knowing if they're okay. If you've got employees in your company, big one here for entrepreneurs and particularly small to medium sized businesses, obviously once you get up to some of the bigger public companies that I've worked for, it's impossible to know the names of thousands and thousands of employees. But know the names of the people that work for you and the people that work for them. Make it your business to know little things. a wife's name, a husband's name, partner's name, kid's name, who they like in football, just something that takes you beyond the nod, how you doing? Yeah, all right, thanks, and then you carry on with your lives. Make it your business to try and know, because you're never going to get to know everybody, but if you can make the effort to get to know a few people, those few people will be your advocates with others that you haven't got to know as well, but will say, look, I promise you, which has happened for me in a number of businesses, whereas I've done my best to get to know everyone as I can, but take the Rico Arena, one of the places I've worked, where I had 150 full-time staff, but like 800 part-time staff. It's not possible to know them all, but you can try. And actually, whenever there was a problem, those advocates of me or my management style would then say to those with a problem, I know you don't know him, but you really could go and speak to him, because they'll know your door is open and they're going to get a warm welcome, and you'll try and help them with whatever that problem is. So coming back to the point is, if you're going to be a manager, don't think saying hi and just going all right is acceptable. You have to actually get to know your people. Do not assume just because you are in charge that you are in charge. Actually, people want to respect and like the people they work with. So it's super important that you don't take for granted that because you're in charge, therefore you are given a relationship with your people. Number 4, never rule by fear.
And that is fucking conformity, not fucking non-conformity. So you little cunt, when I tell you to do something, and you fucking big cunt, when I tell you to do something, do it. And if you come back at me, we'll have a fucking right sort out in here. Alright? And you can pair up if you like, and you can fucking pick someone else to help you, and you can bring your fucking dinner. Because by the time I'm finished with you, you'll fucking need it. Do you fucking hear what I'm saying or not? You see me in the morning.
And I've seen this in a number of businesses. We all have, to greater or lesser degrees. There's people who you think, oh, bloody, I want to avoid them. You don't want to be that person, and actually a lot of the people who are like that don't perceive themselves that way, and it takes someone to actually point that out to them at times. But it's a bit like motivating that we've talked about in the other videos. For me, you want to be motivated by the idea of success rather than the fear of failure. The same said for me in management terms. I want to be motivated through inspiration, encouragement, constructive advice when it's gone wrong, not fear, disappointment, being made to feel tiny when I get something wrong. Those are not, treat people like you want to be treated yourself. Those are not the qualities, those are not the things that I'm looking for when I'm being managed. Therefore, why would I do that to other people? So super, super important in management. Never, ever rule by fear. Let people respect you. Let people admire you. Let people have a professional boundary with you, but never let them fear you. A simple example of that is someone like Sir Alex Ferguson. He's done a huge number of talks on the art of leadership. And I'm not saying he was everyone's best friend, and I'm not saying that people didn't fear him, but the reality is they respected him because he made the tough decisions, but he was polite. One of the things he's famous for is he knew every single member of staff's name, from the canteen or the washing lady all the way up to the wives and the kids of the people that played for him, down to the 11-year-old that's just signed for Manchester United. underneath there is a great guy. There is a warm, welcoming, motivating guy. But if you cross him, there'll be consequences to that. That follows what we're talking about in this video and the other video of, is the fear there? I'd argue maybe slightly, but it's admiration. It is respect that is earned, not because you're worried about being constantly thrashed by this person. I think that's the important balance. As I said in other videos, don't be afraid to show your teeth as a manager. Don't be frightened to instill discipline, but do it in a way that there's the other side to your personality. If the only thing you do is shout, 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 it loses its impact, and ultimately people will then lose respect for you. Or maybe even worse, is they fear you to a point of complete and utter avoidance. Therefore, you've lost complete and utter touch with the people that are around you. So never ever lead by fear. Number 5, never let money cover the company's failings. And what I mean by that is failings as a manager, failings as a leader, as a business owner. If you don't want to manage people, what typically happens is annual wage rises, bonuses go out, and I'm not saying this to be controversial, although it may well be controversial. The best companies, the greatest companies, the ones with the most loyalty, are not the ones that are handing out bonuses and pay rises left, right and centre. They're the ones that have values that everybody buys into, that they share, that they're working with people they care about, people they want to be with. And actually another 2-3% on the pay packet, although it would be preferable, who wouldn't it be for everybody? But actually satisfaction in their workplace, satisfaction with their colleagues, and enjoyment of what they do is much more important. And actually when you're trying to drive a profitable business, as us entrepreneurs are, actually having a happy, motivated workforce is the best way to do that. So a lot of leaders, when things are not going so well, or if they just cannot get to grips with people, is pay rises and bonuses mask things. But actually what you typically tend to find is that, say you're unhappy, you were thinking of leaving, being given more money doesn't change the reasons why you were unhappy. If that was you didn't like your boss, or you didn't like the company, or there was something that you didn't agree with, earning 10% more doesn't change your dissatisfaction. So the first couple of months you notice it in your pay packet and it feels great, but then you adjust your life to your new income and you're back to resentment again, and it becomes perpetual. Then you have to keep giving the money to keep the people satisfied. Whereas if you just put the effort in at the front end to motivate, integrate yourself into the workforce, inspire your people, it's much, much more cost effective, but actually much more effective for the success of your business. And things like pay rises and bonuses can be something you can deliver with great pleasure because you've built a relationship with someone and you know the impact. Whereas used the other way, bonuses, pay rises, things like that are very, very easily used to paper over the cracks of poor relationships or poor management structures, because they're trying to encourage people to be led by the money rather than the satisfaction of what they're doing or the enjoyment of what they're doing. So they're my 5 things not to do, or the things to avoid as a business, as a leader, as an executive, as an entrepreneur. Because, as I say, although I tend to focus on the positives, there is always the other side to that. So I thought this would be a kind of interesting video to do alongside the 5 things to do as a manager or as a leader. These are the things not to do. So hopefully it's useful. As always, please like, please subscribe. I'll keep coming at you with the videos and hopefully start to put some more content out over the coming weeks, certainly as the world relaxes slightly more, because we all know what it's like at the minute. So trying to keep the content coming at you, but it will start to vary it up in the future. So thank you as always. Hope it's been useful. Stay safe. Bye.